There we go. We are live. Yay!
Great.
So, welcome to This Creative Life, the show where I talk tips, tricks, and living a creative life with creative people from all over the place.
Thank you.
Today's guest is the wonderful Paul Anthony Shortt, fantasy author from Ireland.
Hi.
Thank you for being on the show. How's your week been so far?
It's been actually pretty good. I've had a couple of days off work to, chill and get ready for this. So I actually got to take my kids to play school yesterday morning on my own, which is a nice little treat for me. I don't usually get to do that. Usually I have to let my wife do that while I go to work.
Do you work at home or do you work in an office?
In an office. My sins.
Yeah. And do you juggle working a normal job with your creative career?
I do, yeah. I haven't managed to shake the day job just yet, unfortunately. It's a fat life for an awful lot of authors. Most of them, really, you need the day job to fund the habit.
Yeah. Yes. Definitely. And is that in a related field? Like, are you like an editor or?
No, it's an internet company.
Right.
So it's just office admin, really.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So it's completely unrelated. Sometimes
Yeah,
that's a really good thing, though, isn't it? Because it leaves you your creative juices left for when you get home.
it is. Yeah, it's nice. I get that nice separation. So I get home and that's it. Then I can focus on work. I don't feel like it's a certain part of my energy is going towards creativity. It's not just mine. So it's great in that way.
Are you writing anything at the moment?
No, I've just finished the third book in a fantasy series called Lady Raven.
Hmm.
It'll be the second last in the series. It's a 4-book story. So that's coming out in October, and I've just ordered the stock from I funded it on IndieGoGo, which
All
was
right. Nice.
a fantastic experience. It went really well, and it's a great setup for it's just so customizable and so easy to use. I tried Kickstarter, but there's a lot of different hurdles, like needing, for example, a valid passport. Mine happened to be out of date. I didn't have time to to get that set up. But IndieGoGo uses PayPal, which is great because a lot of people they're comfortable with PayPal. It's a very easy system to use. I already use it for different things. I do some freelance editing work as it happens, so I'm already set up on it for that. But that was fantastic. So I'm getting the stock together for the reward levels on that at the moment.
So is that the main difference between Kickstarter and IndieGoGo? Is just the Kickstarter requires a lot more like legal admin.
Yeah, it's a bigger company. It's more high profile. So you're in exchange for the extra work, you're getting that discoverability with it. With IndieGoGo, they let PayPal handle the client protection side of things. But the other thing is you can decide on IndieGoGo whether or not you want to fund only if you get fully funded, or if everything that's donated goes to you anyway. So with Kickstarter, if you need £2,000 and you get 1,900, you failed, and you don't
Right.
get. That means your backers are safe because they're not going to get, they're not going to have to pay for something that doesn't exist. I didn't need a massive outlay, and I already decided I was going to do this regardless. Even if I had to pay for it myself, I was going to. I wasn't going to let readers down midway through the series. So I set it so that with IndieGoGo, whatever was donated to me, I would get.
Right. Yeah.
And like most of my backers, almost my backers, people I know personally, so they could trust that I was going to produce the product in the end anyway. They knew I wasn't going to shaft them.
Yeah. You're just going to go, oh, I don't need to write a book now. I've got money.
It's a good experience, and it's been great to have that security. It's the first time I've gone into a book project with all it. Sorry, there's a cat on me. It was the first time I've gone into this already having the funds in place. Previously, I would, with my self-publishing work, I would have to get the book written, send it off to my editor, who is amazing. And then I'd worry about saving the money up and getting it paid. And often that would mean delaying work and delaying release until I could pay that back, which is, it's a hassle. But yeah, that's the main difference between IndieGoGo and Kickstarter.
Wow. So that's the fourth book in a series, and you've done another series of books before that, didn't you?
Yes, I have an urban fantasy series called The Memory Wars, which that's finished, that's out. That deals with reincarnation. It's about a man who investigates mysterious crimes or disappearances with a friend of his, who's a medical examiner, and they stumble across something, and he realizes that it's a creature he's faced in a past life, because he dreams about all these different incarnations he's had. He doesn't fully understand what it is, but he is drawn to it, and that pulls him into the supernatural society in New York.
Ah, nice. So did you go to New York to research the book?
I went to New York after the book was written. I'd first written the book fully. Well, actually, no, sorry, I tell a lie. I get my years mixed up with when I started writing the book. I actually did start writing the book after I got married and we honeymooned in New York. But in addition to that, I mean, it's actually very easy to learn about anywhere you want to write about in the world now. I mean, we really do live in an information age. You can find out so much about a place. You know, Wikipedia, it's obviously, you know, not 100% reliable, but it's a fantastic starting point for information. And especially when it comes to geography or cities and demographics, the information is incredibly well presented and always has references, so you can backtrack and verify your information. And then, of course, there's, you know, you can't go wrong with Google Maps and Street View.
Yeah.
There's literally, you can see any city in the world almost and see exactly what it looks like. I don't know if you've actually been playing around with it recently, but now more and more cities have a 3D view. So you can pan the map down and actually see what the place looks like. You know, it's incredible just how easy and how much information there is that writers can get. There's I think there's never been a better time to be a writer for how easy it is to do your research.
Yeah, definitely. Because before, I suppose you'd have to read books written by other people to get a sense of the place.
Yeah. And then you're not getting the place; you're getting that author's impression of the place.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some things that, like, about New York, and I love New York, always have loved New York. One of the things that some actual New Yorkers comment on in the first series is very early on in the first book, in Locked Within, I comment on the smell of New York, of Manhattan streets being a mix of hot nuts and car fumes. You know, that gets in through the AC, it gets in everywhere. I mean, that's the city has a very particular smell. I actually find it really nice, but because I associate it with a very pleasant experience. Obviously, a lot of native New Yorkers don't really like that smell. But it's a very particular, you know, sense. And it's an important thing to remember as a writer is, you know, don't just use visual. Use your senses. If you can get to a place and get that tactile sense, brilliant, absolutely do it. But also look up what other people have said about it. Look up documentaries or videos in an area. Hear what the sounds are. You know, think of all these things and constantly make mental notes. These are all things that you can use to bring a place to life. And now, obviously, that research wasn't much use in Lady Raven, it's very firmly fantasy. It's set in a patriarchal empire with flying skyships and things like that, sort of a semi-steampunk thing. But you can use that experience and that habit of retaining and repeating feelings of a place and use it to create a world of your own.
Nice, fascinating. Yeah, I'm not a writer, so I bow down to people who can actually get their ideas out coherently in a sentence.
My experience is that almost anyone can get a great idea for a book. The ideas are the easy part. The hard part is the consistency and discipline. It's like anything. Almost anyone can become a thing they want to be. It's finding a way to choose to be it, to give up certain things, so that you've got time and energy, importantly, to get it done. I get up an hour before the kids have to get up to work on something. I write throughout my lunch hour and work. Then there's, home. If my wife's at the gym, that's, another hour that I've got to space out, to get work done, either research, planning, or actual writing. So yeah, the hard part's never really the idea. I've talked to so many people who said they want to write a book and they have the idea. It's basically making it a priority. And in fairness, it's okay if something's not enough of a priority for you to give up something to get it. That's okay. We're not obliged to follow a particular path or to be someone else's idea of what we should be, or what art should be, or creativity should be. If we have something in us that we think is important to us, more so than I would love to write a book or direct a movie, whatever it is. If there are other things in your life that matter enough to keep them, that's good. Those are good things to have. It's important to have things you care about, whatever they are.
Yes, definitely. I get that a lot with art as well. People say, "Oh, I'd love to be able to draw." I said, "Well, you can already draw. You just need to do it enough that you suck less every time you do it."
Exactly. There was very important. I mean, I've known I wanted to be a writer since I was 10, 12 years old. And one of the most important lessons I actually got was from my dad. He's a musician, not professionally, but as a very passionate hobby. So it's where I get a lot of my taste in music from. And one of the things he told me when I was, as a kid, struggling with writing stories was what the great musicians do. They have the perfect song that's there. And then you've got where they are now, which is, it's crap, basically. But they make that crap song, and then the next one, which is better. And the next one is better again. And they keep on going. They never get here. You'll never get to perfection.
No.
But you keep on getting better and getting better. I mean, frankly, my first 3 books, while I'm proud of them, I've grown so much more as a writer and a storyteller since then that, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily direct a potential new reader to them first, because the Lady Raven books, I think, are better. Harder on them, research more for them. I thought about language more and themes more. I thought about so much more than just, is this a story I want to tell? I'm the first to say I'm not a literary genius. The way I say it is, I write rock and roll. I write stories that are fun, that use fairly simple ideas and themes, but in new and interesting ways. That's just this kind of story I love to tell. Typically adventure stories.
Yeah, well, you don't have to write Game of Thrones every time, do you?
No, and my God, I don't think I could. The idea of sitting down to write a 1,000-page book, I don't know how Martin does it, to be honest. I'd lose track of everything.
Yeah, I think his whole house just must be one big timeline of notes.
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to look up to people's masterworks and go, "Oh my gosh, that's so amazing, I could never do that." But then what you don't see is the decade or so of, getting better that they did.
Exactly. You same with, an athlete, or say an artist, or anyone who is good at something, or even not necessarily fantastic, but comfortable in their ability.
Yeah.
Haven't seen the hours and hours that they've put in to get there.
Overnight success takes years, as they say.
Exactly. I'm still waiting for that one.
Exactly. So you've wrote 2, do you call them anthologies, where you have a collection of books?
Series.
2 series. Are you working on another idea at the moment, or are you going to go and do promotion for your Lady Raven series?
Well, I've got the launch of book 3, Blackened Wings, is at Octagon this year on the Friday night.
What's Octagon?
Octagon is the highlight of my calendar. I love Octagon. Octagon is Ireland's national sci-fi convention. So it's a weekend. It's 2.5 days, Friday night, all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and actually well into Saturday night too, with a party at the end, of panels and workshops and readings, and it's amazing. It's such a great way to meet readers, fans, other authors, or industry professionals. So there are usually panel discussions on a range of topics. I think if you go to get the website, it is 2016.octagon.com is this year's website where you can get all the information about it. This year, the theme is rebellion. So they're talking about a lot of rebellion themes, whether in Irish history, because this is the centenary of the 1916 Rising, so it's an appropriate theme. But the guests of honor are Diane Duane, who's written for Star Trek, Batman, the Young Wizard series, Peter Morwood, and also Rhianna Pratchett will be there as a guest of honor too. So it's going to be a great event. So that's where I'm launching Blackened Wings. There's one more book in that series, The White Raven, that'll be out next year. I haven't started writing it yet, but I'd say around maybe next summer, autumn, probably a good release date for that. In addition, I haven't actually made an announcement of this, so this is the first big public thing on this. I'm going to be starting a Patreon. And the plan for this is the end goal is I want to be a full-time writer. There is nothing that gets me out of bed in the morning like knowing I get to write something and tell a story. I love telling stories more than anything. So but this series, my plan for this is that the primary reward is short stories or novellas about this mother and daughter who travel the country, America probably, because it's a great country for this sort of story, stumbling across supernatural incidents and monsters and taking care of them, essentially horror stories until these two show up and deal with the problem. It's one of the things that drew me towards urban fantasy and away from horror was, in horror, the characters are rarely powerful. They can't take on the threat directly. And any character that is capable of it usually ends up dying first, very, very quickly. So I wanted, from a very young age, even before I understood what urban fantasy was, I wanted to write about the vampire hunters, or the witches who fought the demons. I didn't want to write about the people who ran away from the things. It's like my author tagline, and something that I believe passionately about what I do, is stories to show that monsters can be beaten. There's an awful lot of horror in fiction and in the world, and it's important to remind people that there are heroes and they can win. So this series is about these two characters, mother and daughter, who travel the country. Really, that's all I've got at the moment. I've got a couple of story ideas in my head. I think it's going to be quite different from... Say hello.
Hello.
That's Smudge. She's a handful. So I'm taking a lot of inspiration from shows like Knight Rider, The A-Team, Supernatural, but those shows are very heavily dominated by masculine figures, to the point of toxic masculinity. I mean, anyone who's a fan of Supernatural will know you don't want to be a woman on that show. You don't. So I thought I wanted to try and do that kind of a thing, the horror story until the cowboys show up and fight the monsters, but from a perspective where I didn't have to rely on, elements of misogyny or old tropes of, repressed feelings, that sort of thing. I like exploring diverse reactions and diversity in my work. I like seeing how a story that's typically male dominated is changed by presenting it from a female point of view. And I hound every woman who's a friend of mine for advice on this sort of thing, and they'll probably let you know it's it can be, I don't know how they put up with me, but I'm constantly asking, look, is this right? What would happen here? What would you do? So, you know, I've got several close friends who are my critical partners on this sort of thing that I will always run these things by to make sure I'm not, you know, putting my foot in my mouth. So my idea for that is that I'll release these sets of short stories or novellas in ebook format to backers on the Patreon. And then when there's, say, 3 or 4 of them written, I'll self-publish that as an anthology, a volume 1, essentially. Almost like, you know, a box set of a TV show. It'll go out and then other people can buy it then, separate from that. In addition, the regular monthly aspect of the Patreon, because my researcher told me that the more popular Patreons are the pay monthly rather than the pay per item.
Yeah.
I figure that's what you want, I'll go for it. So there has to be a reward for that. So I'm going to be publishing, or sending out, articles that I've researched on urban myths, legends, ghost stories, hauntings, tales from folklore, mythological creatures, that sort of thing. So there'll be the ones that I've researched from real world knowledge, but also then there'll be journal entries from the daughter in the series, who, when she was growing up, had her mother teaching her what these things really were. Now, in the opening of this thing, the mother and daughter don't work together. The mother taught her daughter how to protect herself from these things, but she didn't drag her around hunting monsters, because who the hell would bring their kid hunting monsters?
Supernatural.
Exactly. You know, John Winchester is the world's worst parent.
Yes.
So I also want to flip that in his head and go, well, no, actually, Batman is not a good parent. John Winchester is not a good parent. You don't do that to kids. Circumstances will force this on them in the first installment of this series of short stories, but it's not something that the mother wanted for her daughter, ever. So, but the journal entries are going to be sort of from a slightly childlike perspective, but they will be very much, this is what this world is really like. So this is what vampires are really like. This is what kind of ghosts there are. This is what this haunting really was in whatever year and wherever. So that's what I'm looking at as the primary reward on it. I'll think about some other things as well, I'm sure, because I really want to offer a lot with this, and there's a lot of competition out there for what people can get from Patreon.
Yeah.
So I want to make, I'm still I'm still fairly new and unknown as an author outside of my immediate circle. So I want to make sure that what I'm offering is worth grabbing attention.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and she said that the $1 is the one that she goes for the most. She likes to back a lot of people because she likes to back a lot of people. So she gives access to everything on her Patreon at $1 as well.
Wow.
And she likes to do things daily for her Patreon. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
How do you make it work? What's the balance between actually getting work done and supporting your Patreons and
Well, most things are a balancing act.
Yes, having kids at the same time and pick them up and feed them and things.
Like I said, we've got the twins who are turning 4 in December, and we've got another one, Olivia, who is turning 3 in January. We've got 2 cats, 2 dogs, and on top of that, I've got a day job, and that's 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
You really have to. It's tough sometimes to hit that balance, and you do have to think, as I said before, you prioritize. You don't find the time, you make the time.
Yeah.
Somehow.
You don't binge watch series.
No, not that I've ever gone on Netflix binge at all.
No, nobody does that.
No.
Do you listen to music while you write, or do you like to just
Oh no,
fall
I,
into
I,
the world?
I actually write better when I've got music. I'll assemble a writing playlist, and sometimes I might make a custom version for a certain book or even a certain scene. It's a mix of film scores and various rock tracks. So, it depends on really on my mood, at a given time or a given month even. But primarily it's, as I say, film scores, especially anything with a big sweeping score, like Alan Silvestri, John Ottman, John Powell, Hans Zimmer, Brian Tyler, all of them. I love how they use recurring themes, which can trigger. Often I actually get my best ideas when I'm just walking and I've got my headphones on, and a certain piece will start from within a track, and I'll think of a scene that would work for that. Typically, the end scenes what I usually come up with first than anything, and then from that one idea for a scene, the rest of the book comes. Like my primary film scores that I use for Lady Raven is actually from the How to Train Your Dragon films. They're very much Cora's, the main character, Cora Raven now. They're her heroic sequences, or likes of Kung Fu Panda as well has a great score.
I never thought about it, but yeah, Kung Fu Panda does have a really great music score.
Actually, in the second one, there's some great tracks there, especially the climactic sequence of that. It's wonderful, and these whole things help me choreograph my books. My editor, Amy McCracken, I've had her since my first series, because she was a freelancer and she was working with my publisher at the time for that. So I ended, she was assigned me on my first book, and I've kept her since then. She's amazing to work with. She commented once very early on that my strengths are dialogue and action. So my main books are heavy in action sequences and that kind of thing, and I love figuring out new ways and interesting ways to describe them, and I use the music to figure out how I would pace each scene so that it feels like it's moving that way.
Nice. So you kind of help use the music to help you pace the action. So
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, that's really cool. Because music uses pacing as well, doesn't it, to come up and go down? Yeah.
Exactly. Like there's a whole, I could probably go on for a whole other hour just on storytelling through music. Again, what I would suggest to anyone is listen to take a movie you like with a great action sequence in it, and then sit down and listen just to the music from it. Star Wars is great for this as well, because John Williams is the master. Really, he's the granddaddy of sweeping film scores, of the modern sweeping film score, at least anyway. But imagine how listen, let the music tell the story for you. You will see it play in your head, or in my case, I'll see my own story happen through the music. It's very interesting how you can pick up the things that you won't notice when you're just hearing the music through the film, but you'll realize just how much work is going on to tell the story in audio sense as well as the visual. And I mean, I don't know, I can't work without music in my life around me. I think it would help. There are movies that I've seen that have been actually pretty mediocre, but I love them just because of the music.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. And the same even with band. There are some bands I keep on my playlist as well. Hailstorm, Vega, the main ones, Psycho Kiss. Then I pick and choose a couple of good tracks from other bands, like I'm blanking at the moment. But Bad Pollyanna has a couple of good tracks that are great, again, for Lady Raven. So yeah.
Wonderful. Oh, fantastic. Good tips. Yeah, I always tend to, if I'm watching something, because I watch a lot of like QI and comedy while I'm painting, because
Okay.
I don't know, if I watch something too epic, I'm always kind of doing that, looking up from my work. But if I listen to music, I find myself like kind of stopping and kind of imagining things in my head and not doing anything at all. So, but I always remember what I'm watching when I look at my painting again. I go, oh yes, I was watching this when I painted that bit, and I was watching this when I painted that bit. Do you do the same when you reread your books? You hear the music again?
I do. Yeah, absolutely, I do. Yeah. It's actually a weird thing. I don't know if other authors do this. I know it drives my wife insane, but it's not only that, but when I'm rereading my own stuff or reading someone else's, I'm also thinking about what should happen next, where the story should go. I don't see, when I'm even watching something I haven't seen before, I don't see it as just what's on screen. In my head, I'm already thinking, where does this fit? It's not just, this scene here. It's where does this fit in the whole story? The story is not a linear thing in my head. It's, okay, if the bad guy needs to be fought on a castle, how do they get to the castle? And if right now, if the good guys are fighting the bad guy and say the good guy gets an injured knee, okay, now I'm thinking, how is that going to come into play later on? What's going to happen to him because of that? What will the consequences be? How does that ripple out through the rest of the story?
Yeah.
And what should happen? And what I find is I enjoy stories more if I can figure out at least a little bit what should happen next. When stories try for a plot twist, I'm often disappointed.
Yeah.
Because in a lot of cases, the kick of the story is there's a plot twist. It's not how well the twist is done. It's just, I'm not sure. It's very difficult to explain.
Yeah.
It's
like a bit convoluted, maybe.
Yeah. It drives my wife crazy. She thinks I should just, relax and just enjoy the story. But it's like, this is how I enjoy. It's not an active thing. My mind.
Yeah, it's one of the what they call it, the downsides of your profession.
Yeah.
That whenever you're looking at something that's to do with what you do, you're always like analyzing it in a different way. Whereas I think a lot of people can just sit back and enjoy it. If you're a musician to a score or you're reading something, you can see all the little bits that went into making it, and you can see, where the holes in it are.
Yeah, exactly. So what tricks people use, what rules they're following, what rules they're breaking. I firmly believe that people are hardwired for story. We're drawn to it in every single thing we do, whether it's an artistic thing, whether it's our own lives. I mean, we are all each the protagonists in our own story.
Yeah.
And we think of ourselves as that. It's how we decide what we want to be. It's how we decide what we deserve in life. We picture ourselves as that. I think we're drawn to a certain form and structure, and we break out. It's like the uncanny valley effect. Like in robotics, is we recognize that a robot's head doesn't look human, but we don't want it to be too predictable either. Then it's just a little too perfect, but not quite perfect enough.
Yeah.
And then it makes us uncomfortable. So that's why we need to be able to play with things and let the story flow in different ways. But at the end of the day, certain story beats, the hero's journey effectively, will always crop up in almost every single story. I think there's only one or two movies or books that I've encountered where I haven't been able to pick out how you would apply the hero's journey to them. The hero has to start in the mundane, whatever their mundane world is, and eventually needs to draw them out of that into the fantastic world. There must be a moment of apotheosis where they're metaphorically or literally in some cases dying or something that's happened, and they can rise from that. We want that. We want that flow. We want those moments. They're what fire the emotion in us when we read or watch a movie or whatever. Without them, a story is it's not a story. It's a series of events.
Yeah.
There's no no purpose to it, really. There's no lesson.
Yeah. Hmm. Well, storytelling is such a primal thing, isn't it? We've been doing it for ever and ever.
Basically, yeah. I mean, it goes right back. I mean,
since language, since Ugg was Ugg.
Yeah, it's been a spiritual thing, a religious thing for us in so many different cultures, going back thousands of years. Storytelling, like the likes of ancient Greece, for example, it wasn't going to the theater, it wasn't, heading down with your friends, having a drink, whatever. It was part of their religious offering to the gods. This is how they defined part of their role and place in the world. That was how important story was to people, whether music, theatre, comedy. It was used to place us in the divine cycle, really, and to say this is who we are, and we are important, and we want to share this and be part of this and give thanks for this.
Wow, that's deep. Deep and spiritual moments.
That's probably I can get in a Tuesday morning.
Yeah. Well, we've been going for about half an hour, just 40 minutes, I think. 36 minutes or so. So I'll let you get back on with your day. Otherwise, I will keep you here forever and just ramble on. So people can find you at Octagon in Ireland. Will you have a table?
I will actually. I'll be sharing a trading table with a couple of other authors as well. Celine Kieran and C.E. Murphy.
Yeah, and you'll have some physical copies of your book to sell and launch.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Okay, so if people want to find you, they can find you at Octagon. And where is that happening? Is that in Dublin?
Yes, it's at the Camden Court Hotel in Dublin City.
And when in October is that?
It's on the 14th to the 16th of October.
All right, okay, so like in the middle of October, 14th, 16th. All right, okay, so I'll put the link to Octagon down below in the description box, as well as a link to your site so people can find out more about you and go buy all your books. And when you actually do launch your Patreon, let me know and I can put that in the description down below as well.
I will. Great. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been fascinating to talk to you.
Yeah, it's been great fun.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a pleasure. And if you want to come back and have a chat with us after Octagon and tell us how it went and how your Patreon is going, that would also be lovely.
That'd be fantastic.
Well, thank you so much. Have a wonderful Tuesday, as it is today. All right then. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.